I never thought a single moment could shatter the life I've spent years building. My name is Claire, and at 39, I believed my marriage was a quiet, steady harbor, until a fleeting escape to a secluded lakeside resort turned it into a raging storm. Standing by the still waters, I felt the weight of unspoken tensions with my husband Ethan pressing down on me, but it was the spark of a stranger's gaze that ignited something dangerous within. Now I'm haunted by a choice that's left me trembling, a secret burning hotter than I can bear. What did I do that day by the lake, and where has Ethan gone in the aftermath? Picture this, a quiet evening, the kind where the world seems to hold its breath, and I'm standing at the edge of my kitchen, staring at a single, untouched glass of red wine on the counter. It's not the wine that's got my heart racing, though. It's the weight of a secret I've carried for far too long, a truth that's been clawing at the edges of my mind, begging to be let out. My name is Claire, and at 39 years old, I've built a life that looks picture perfect from the outside. But beneath the surface, there's a storm brewing, one I'm not sure I can weather. I've been married to Ethan for 12 years. 12 years of shared mornings, late-night conversations, and the kind of quiet routines that stitch a couple together over time. Ethan's the kind of man who can light up a room without even trying. Tall, with a steady gaze that makes you feel like you're the only person who matters. He's 42, a structural engineer who spends his days designing bridges and buildings, creating things that last. And me? I'm a freelance graphic designer, working from our cozy home in a small suburban town just outside Portland. My days are filled with color palettes and deadlines, but my nights, well, they've been haunted by something I can't quite name. Our marriage hasn't always been easy. We've had our share of rough patches, disagreements over money, the stress of trying to start a family that never quite happened, and those silent moments where you wonder if you've said everything there is to say. But there's always been love, or at least I thought there was. Ethan's hands, rough from years of manual work before he moved into design, still hold mine with a tenderness that can catch me off guard. And yet, there are times when I catch him staring out the window, lost in thoughts he doesn't share, and I wonder if I really know him at all. I remember the early days, back when we were just two reckless souls in our 20s, sneaking away for stolen moments in the back of his old pickup truck under a sky full of stars. Those nights were electric, charged with a kind of heat that made the world disappear. We'd lose ourselves in each other, tangled up in a way that felt like it could defy time itself. Even now, I can close my eyes and feel the ghost of those moments, the way our breaths would sink, the unspoken promises we made in the dark. But life has a way of dulling those edges, doesn't it? Routine creeps in, and suddenly you're more focused on paying bills than stealing kisses. Still, there's something about Ethan that keeps me tethered, even when I feel myself drifting. Maybe it's the way he hums under his breath when he's fixing something around the house, or how he always leaves a cup of coffee on my desk when I'm pulling an all-nighter for a project. But lately, I've noticed the cracks I wake to the sound of birds chirping outside our cabin at Willow Creek Resort, their songs weaving through the early morning stillness, reminding me of the fragile peace we came here to find. There's a faint smell of damp wood in the air, clinging to the walls of this rustic little place we've escaped to, hoping to mend whatever's been fraying between us. I roll over in the narrow bed, the sheets cool against my skin, and stare at the ceiling for a moment, trying to shake off the heaviness that's settled in my chest. Ethan's already up. I can hear the faint clink of a mug from the small kitchen area. I pull myself out of bed, tug on a worn sweater, and pad barefoot across the creaky floor to join him. Breakfast is a quiet affair, the kind of silence that feels like it's pressing down on us. Ethan sits across from me at the tiny wooden table, sipping black coffee, his eyes fixed on some invisible point beyond the window. I poke at a piece of cold toast on my plate, the butter congealing in little pools, and steal a glance at him, His face is unreadable, as it so often is these days, and I feel that familiar ache of not knowing how to reach him. I clear my throat, the sound almost too loud in the stillness, and force out a suggestion. How about a walk later, get some fresh air? He nods just once, his expression still a blank slate, and takes another sip of his coffee. No words, no warmth, just that nod. I look down at my toast again, wondering if I've already lost him to whatever thoughts he's keeping locked away. By late afternoon, we're outside, the air crisp and thick with the scent of pine. I've thrown on my faded denim jacket, the one with the frayed cuffs, and a pair of sturdy boots that crunch against the gravel path as we walk. Ethan's in a dark hoodie, his hands shoved deep into his pockets, his shoulders hunched like he's carrying a weight I can't see. We head toward the lake, the path winding through towering trees that cast long shadows across the ground. Every step feels deliberate, like we're both measuring the distance between us, not just in feet, but in everything unspoken. I try to focus on the sounds around us, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a loon, but I can't shake the feeling that Ethan's not really here with me. He's walking beside me, sure, but his mind seems elsewhere, like he's observing this moment rather than living it. When we reach the lake, I stop near our parked car, the old sedan we drove up here in, and run my fingers over the cool metal of the hood. The water's surface is a perfect mirror, reflecting the graying sky and the jagged outline of the mountains beyond. I catch a glimpse of myself in that glassy expanse, tired eyes, a furrowed brow, and wonder how I got here, standing on the edge of something I can't name. Ethan mumbles something about needing a better view and starts up the hill, his boots crunching against the loose stones as he climbs to a higher vantage point. I watch him for a moment, his figure growing smaller against the vast backdrop of the landscape, until he's just a dark silhouette against the fading light. I stay by the lake, the stillness of the water almost hypnotic, pulling me into a whirl of thoughts I can't seem to escape. The air feels heavier now, like it's pressing against my skin, and I wrap my arms around myself, trying to anchor my mind to something, anything. But all I can feel is the growing chasm between Ethan and me. I'm lost in that haze, staring at the ripples on the lake's surface, when I hear the faint sound of footsteps approaching. My first thought is that it's Ethan coming back, but when I turn, I see a stranger instead. He's in his mid-30s, I'd guess, with a rugged look about him, unkempt stubble framing a strong jaw, and a weathered leather jacket that's seen better days. His smile is crooked, almost boyish, but there's a sharpness in his eyes that makes my stomach twist in a way I can't quite place. He stops a few feet away, hands in his pockets, and introduces himself as Marcus, a guest at the resort who's been coming here for years to clear his head. His voice is low, warm, like a slow pour of honey, so different from the icy silence I've grown used to with Ethan. It catches me off guard, and I feel a flicker of something I haven't felt in ages. Nervous, alive, seen. He nods toward the lake, commenting on how beautiful it is this time of day, the way the light dances on the water like it's alive. I manage a small nod, my throat tight, as he steps closer. Too close, maybe, but I don't move. My heart's thudding now, a wild rhythm I can't control, especially when he points to a flock of birds soaring overhead and his hand brushes mine. It's brief, barely a touch, but I freeze, the warmth of his skin searing into me like a brand. I glance up the hill toward Ethan. His silhouette is still there, unmoving, a dark statue against the sky. I'm sure he's watching. I can feel his eyes on me, even from this distance, but he doesn't stand, doesn't wave, doesn't come down. He just stays. And that stillness, that indifference, it cuts deeper than any words could. Marcus must sense my hesitation, the way my body tenses, but he doesn't pull back. Instead, He tilts his head, that crooked smile still in place, and suggests we sit in his car nearby to talk. My mind screams at me to stop, to turn around, to run back to the safety of what I know. But there's something in Ethan's unmoving figure that pushes me forward, like a dare I can't refuse. I follow Marcus, my boots scuffing against the dirt as we walk past our sedan to his, a beat-up old car parked just beyond, its paint chipped and faded. The door creaks as he opens it, and I slide into the passenger seat, the worn leather cool against my legs. The air inside feels thick, charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. At first, it's just words, small talk about the resort, the lake, the kind of nothingness that fills awkward silences. But then his hand finds my thigh, a bold, deliberate move that sends a jolt through me. Maybe his silence was his way of saying goodbye, a quiet acceptance of the end. I should stop this. I know I should. But I don't. Instead, I lean into it, into him, letting the moment spiral out of control. What happens next is a blur of heat and urgency, a tangled mess of need and defiance right there in the cramped space of his car. It's raw, messy, over almost as quickly as it started, but it leaves me breathless, my pulse hammering in my ears. I keep glancing out the window, half expecting to see Ethan storming. I step out of Marcus's car, my hands trembling as I adjust my jacket, trying to smooth out the wrinkles of what just happened. My legs feel like they might give out beneath me, shaky and unsteady, as if the ground itself is shifting. The air feels colder now, biting at my skin, and the lake looks darker, almost ominous, as the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, jagged shadows across the water. I take a deep breath, trying to steady myself, but my chest feels tight, like I can't quite pull in enough air. I turn my gaze toward the hill, expecting, hoping, to see Ethan still sitting there on that log, his familiar silhouette a quiet anchor in this storm I've created. But he's gone. The log is empty, the space where he sat just a short while ago erased from the landscape. My stomach drops, a sickening lurch that makes my knees buckle for a moment. Where is he? Did he see everything? I call out his name, my voice raw and desperate, echoing across the still water. Ethan! It bounces back to me, unanswered, swallowed by the vast emptiness of the resort grounds. My heart hammers in my chest, each beat louder than the last, as I scan the hill, the path, the shoreline, anywhere he might be. But there's nothing, just the rustle of leaves in the evening breeze and the distant cry of a bird. Behind me, I hear the creak of Marcus's car door as he steps out, his voice cutting through the silence. Hey, you okay? There's a note of concern there, but I can't face him right now. I wave him off without turning around, my hand shaky as I mutter, I'm fine, I need to find my husband. I don't wait for his response, don't look back to see the expression on his face. I can't. I start walking, my boots crunching against the gravel path, each step heavier than the last as I head back toward our cabin. My mind is a whirlwind, questions spinning so fast I can barely grasp them. Did Ethan leave? Was he angry? Did he see what happened in that car, the way I let myself fall into something I knew I shouldn't? And if he did, why didn't he come down? Why didn't he stop me? Why didn't he fight for us? The path blurs beneath my feet, the gravel and dirt blending into a haze as I replay every moment of the past hour in my head. I can still feel the heat of Marcus's touch, the reckless rush that consumed me, and it makes my stomach churn with a mix of guilt and something else. Something defiant, something that whispers maybe this was inevitable. Maybe this was the crack in our foundation finally breaking wide open. When I reach the cabin, I push the door open with more force than I mean to, the wood creaking on its hinges. The small space feels suffocating now, the faint smell of damp wood and pine clinging to the air. I scan the room in a heartbeat. His jacket, the one he'd draped over the chair this morning, is gone. His small duffel bag, always packed with the essentials, is missing too. The realization hits me like a punch to the gut. He's not here. He's really gone. I stumble to the edge of the bed, collapsing onto it, my hands gripping the rough quilt as I stare at the scuffed wooden floor. My mind keeps racing, looping back to that moment by the lake, to Ethan's unmoving figure on the hill. Did he know what I was doing? Did he watch me cross a line I can't uncross? Or was he already planning to leave, already done with me, with us? I sit there for what feels like hours, the night stretching on endlessly around me. The cabin is too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears until it's all you can hear. I don't sleep, can't even close my eyes without seeing Ethan's face, without wondering if I've just destroyed everything we've built over the last 12 years. Or maybe this is what he wanted all along. Maybe it's been 3 days since I got back to Chicago, and I'm still wading through the fog of everything that happened at Willow Creek. The apartment feels like a shell now, hollowed out by Ethan's absence. I've been pacing these rooms, replaying every moment by that lake, every choice I made, every look I can't erase from my memory. I've dialed his number more times than I can count, my thumb hovering over the call button like it's a lifeline, only to hear that same empty ring before it cuts to voicemail. Ethan, please, just call me back. I need to know you're okay. My voice cracks every time I leave a message, but there's never a response. I even called his office yesterday, my heart in my throat, hoping for some scrap of news, but they just said he hasn't shown up, hasn't even checked in. It's like he's vanished into thin air, and I'm left here, drowning in the silence, wondering if he's gone for good. I'm sitting at the kitchen table this afternoon, staring at the same untouched mug of coffee that's gone cold in my hands, when I hear the faint clatter of the mail slot by the front door. It's a small sound, almost insignificant, but it jolts me out of my haze. I push back the chair, the legs scraping against the hardwood, and shuffle over to the doormat. There, lying innocently on the floor, is a plain white envelope. No stamp, no return address, just my name scrawled across the front in a handwriting I don't recognize. My fingers tremble as I pick it up, the paper feeling heavier than it should, like it's carrying a weight I'm not ready to bear. I tear it open, my breath shallow, half expecting some kind of explanation. A note from Ethan, anything to make sense of this void. But there are no words inside. Instead, I pull out a set of keys, cold and heavy against my palm, and a single Polaroid photo that makes my heart stop. The image is stark, haunting. It's Marcus's car, or what's left of it. The beat-up old sedan from the lake is nothing but a charred skeleton now, burned down to ashes in the middle of a field I don't recognize. The blackened frame is barely distinguishable, twisted metal and scorched earth staring back at me like a ghost from that day. My breath catches, sharp and painful, in my throat. I can almost smell the smoke, feel the heat of that moment by the lake all over again, the reckless spiral I let myself fall into. At the bottom of the photo, scrawled in jagged black ink, are words that send a shiver down my spine. Now it's all yours, even the ashes. I read them over and over, my eyes tracing each letter as if they'll rearrange themselves into something that makes sense. But they don't. My grip tightens on the keys, the metal digging into my skin, a sharp reminder that this is real, that this isn't some fever dream I can wake up from. I stumble over to the couch, collapsing onto the worn cushions, the photo still clutched in one hand, the keys in the other. My mind is racing, a chaotic storm of questions I can't answer. What does this mean? Why would Ethan, or whoever sent this, burn Marcus's car? Is this some kind of message, A way to erase what happened, to destroy the evidence of that day? And why give me the keys? What could they possibly unlock when the car is nothing but a pile of ash? The words echo in my head. Now it's all yours. Even the ashes. And they twist something deep inside me, a knot of fear and confusion that I can't untangle. Is this Ethan's way of saying he knows everything? That he saw what I did and decided to wipe it all away, to leave me with nothing but the remnants of my mistake? Or is it something darker, something I can't even begin to grasp? I lean back against the couch, my head tilting toward the ceiling, but all I see is that burned-out car, the field stretching endlessly around it. Days have bled into weeks since I found that haunting photo and those mysterious keys, and Ethan is still nowhere to be found. I've stopped dialing his number, stopped leaving messages that echo into nothingness. I've stopped waiting for the sound of his key in the lock, the familiar creak of the door that would signal he's come back to me. The apartment in Chicago feels like a tomb now, every corner heavy with the ghost of what used to be. Those keys, though, they sit on my kitchen counter, glinting under the dim light like they're taunting me, a constant reminder of that fateful night at Willow Creek. I've turned them over in my hands 100 times, tracing the worn edges, trying to unlock their meaning. I looked up the make, spent hours online, and even called a locksmith, but they don't match our old sedan, or the charred remains of Marcus's car, or anything I can pin down. They're a puzzle with no solution, a question mark etched in cold metal. I drove back to Willow Creek once, about a week ago, desperate for some kind of clarity. The long stretch of highway felt endless, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I needed to see the lake again, to stand where it all unraveled, as if the water or the trees might whisper the answers I've been chasing. But the resort staff were no help. They looked at me with polite, blank faces when I asked about Ethan, claiming they never saw him leave, never noticed anything out of the ordinary. They confirmed Marcus had checked out the same day I did, vanishing just as completely as my husband. I pressed them, my voice sharper than I intended, asking if they'd seen anything strange, any sign of a struggle or a hurried departure. But they just shook their heads, their expressions a mix of pity and impatience. I even tried to find that field from the photo, the one where Marcus's car was reduced to ash and twisted metal. I drove aimlessly for hours, squinting at every patch of open land, but it's like the place doesn't exist. It's not on any map I can find, not in any local record. It's as if the earth itself swallowed that moment, leaving me with nothing but a grainy Polaroid to prove it was real. Life now is quieter, emptier, like I'm moving through a world that's been drained of color. I still work, still take on design projects, but my heart's not in it. My days are mechanical. Wake up, stare at the ceiling, force myself to eat, sketch lines on a screen that feel meaningless. The nights are worse. Endless hours where I lie awake, the silence of the apartment pressing down on me like a physical weight. And yet, in some strange, twisted way, there's a sense of liberation in all this. I've shed something, even if I can't name it. Maybe it's the weight of a marriage that was crumbling long before that day at the lake, or maybe it's the guilt I thought would drown me, but hasn't. I don't regret what happened with Marcus, even if it cost me everything. I can still feel the heat of that moment, the way it burned through years of numbness in a single, reckless rush. It was a choice. Messy, wrong, but mine. And in the aftermath, in the ashes of what I've lost, I've started to wonder if I'm finally seeing myself for the first time. Ethan's words from years ago keep circling in my mind, a memory I can't shake. "I want to see you change," he'd said once, late at night after a fight, his voice low and heavy with something I couldn't decipher. I'd brushed it off then, thought it was just frustration talking. but now I hear it differently. Was it a challenge? A quiet push to break free from the life we'd built? Was it permission to step over the line I'd been towing for so long? Or was it a trap? A test I didn't even know I was taking until it was too late? I'll never know. I'll never sit across from him again, never look into those steady eyes and ask what he meant by wanting to see me change. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.